Former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe is revealing he ordered an investigation targeting President Trump right after the president fired FBI Director James Comey. Listen.
I think the next day I met with the team investigating the Russia cases, and I asked the team to go back and conduct an assessment to determine where are we with these efforts and what steps do we need to take going forward.
John Yoo was a Deputy Assistant Attorney General under President George W. Bush, now a law professor at UC Berkeley. So let me ask you, from your view from when you worked inside the Justice Department, what Andrew McCabe is saying that he did and the timing of it, does any of that sound inappropriate, unethical, or even illegal to you?
Look, at best, McCabe and a group of his aides, just like Jim Comey, were these crusaders who just didn't think the rules applied to them, the normal regulations applied to them. At worst, they're people who are motivated by a bias against Trump. They had already decided Trump is working for the Russians, as McCabe has said now in public, based on very little to almost no evidence. So I wouldn't say it's illegal in the sense that they could be prosecuted for it, but it seems unethical. It seems like if you were going to investigate the president, you should go to the very top of the Justice Department, either the Deputy Attorney General or the Attorney General, and ask their permission and to ask for the evidence that you actually have to start an investigation. At that point in time, back in the summer of 2017, to say that firing Jim Comey itself was the grounds for investigation is a very difficult and fraught decision, and may not even be illegal because President Trump was just exercising his own constitutional powers to remove subordinate executive branch officials and prosecutors.
Take a listen to what he says and what McCabe says in this excerpt that ran in The Atlantic. He said about Rosenstein, his eyes were focused on a point in space a few yards beyond and behind toward the door. He started talking about the firing of Jim Comey. He was obviously upset. He said he was shocked that the White House was making it look as if Jim's firing had been his idea. He was grasping for a way to describe the nature of his situation. One remark stands out. He said, "There's no one that I can talk to about this. There's no one here that I can trust." Well, by my reading, the only two people in the room were McCabe and Rosenstein. And if Rosenstein is feeling like he couldn't trust McCabe, I mean, maybe there was good reason for that.
Well, also, that's why Rosenstein is in the job. Sometimes you can't talk to lots of other people and get their opinion when you have to make decisions like, should we investigate the president to try to remove him from office under the 25th Amendment? That's why the president appoints people and the Senate confirms them to make those kinds of tough decisions. I'm afraid you look at that account by McCabe, you read about Rosenstein and McCabe talking about potentially wiretapping the president, potentially trying to get a majority of the cabinet and the vice president to find the president unable to do the job. I don't think they were up to the jobs that they were in. I think they were panicking. They should have taken their time and thought about it and considered whether the firing of Jim Comey actually was constitutional and within the president's authority, which I think a lot of people now realize was the right thing to do.
We should point out that Rosenstein has disputed McCabe's accounts here. Let me ask you about one other thing. Paul Manafort, who has been under the gun and legally, now a judge has found that he actually did violate his plea agreement. So what does that mean going forward?
One, it gives us a lot of direction or hints of the direction that the special counsel investigation is going. So if you look at what Manafort lied about and what the special counsel is really interested in, it's in whether Manafort and a Ukrainian who has ties to Russian intelligence were passing information back and forth, trying to do favors for each other, while Manafort was a chairman of the Trump campaign. That has nothing to do, actually, with what Manafort pled guilty to, which was about stuff before he was the campaign manager. That shows you that what they're really, the special counsel of Mueller really pursuing is, did the Russians and their intelligence agents use Manafort as a way to get to Trump, and did that affect the campaign in any way? So far, however, I don't see any evidence out in public that shows that that's actually true.
Do you think that the special counsel is wrapping up soon, from what you can see?
I think so. Yes, I think so. I think they're not really. I think you would see more witnesses, more plea bargains, and you would see more if they were actually making more headway on this Trump-Russia conspiracy to commit federal law narrative.
Okay, John Yoo, we always appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Well, the president didn't let that one just sit there, tweeting this morning, quote, "Disgraced FBI acting director Andrew McCabe pretends to be a poor little angel when in fact he was a big part of the crooked Hillary scandal and the Russia hoax, a puppet for leaking James Comey. IG report on McCabe was devastating, part of an insurance policy in case I won. In the interview, McCabe also says there were meetings at the Justice Department about the possibility of getting together the vice president and enough cabinet members to use the 25th Amendment to remove the president from office. The DOJ has previously denied that there were any such meetings. McCabe also says Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who recently tendered his resignation, was serious about wearing a wire in his meetings with President Trump. Rosenstein insists he was joking about that. That provoked a sharp response from the DOJ this morning, which said, quote, the Deputy Attorney General never authorized any recording that Mr. McCabe references. As the Deputy Attorney General previously has stated, based on his personal dealings with the president, there is no basis to invoke the 25th Amendment, nor was the Deputy Attorney General in a position to consider invoking the 25th Amendment. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham says he wants to get McCabe in front of his Senate Judiciary Committee as quickly as possible to hear from him. Senator Lindsey Graham tweeting this morning, quote, after Mr. McCabe's 60 Minutes interview, it is imperative that he and others come before the Senate Judiciary to fully explain how and why a FISA warrant was issued against Carter Page and answer questions about what appears to be now more than ever bias against President Trump. This is just the beginning, I think, this interview with McCabe.
Yeah, remember now, just so our audience knows, we only have a small clip of that interview. You know, I mean, there could be another 20 minutes or even more beyond that, so we'll wait on that. John, what about the bill on border security? Will the president sign it? What are you hearing?
We do not know yet. I mean, I don't know how much choice he really has here, but the White House is spending all day today and will much of tomorrow go through the 1,159 pages of the bill that came in late last night. There are a lot of things in this bill that the president does not like. Among them, the bill says that you cannot, in Texas, build a barrier in the National Butterfly Center. The Department of Homeland Security has already been preparing the ground there to build a fence and insists it's not going to disrupt what's going on there at the Butterfly Center. It also gives local officials in Texas a big say on where fencing can be built, and it also stipulates that border fence can only be designs approved as of 2017, which includes the so-called steel bollard design. That's not what you're seeing there. That's the landing mat format. The Border Patrol wants the new steel slat design that the president has been talking about because smugglers can throw a rope over the top of the bollard design and climb up over. The vice president in Warsaw, Poland a short time ago had this to say about what the president may or may not do.
The president's evaluating what's in the bill. He's also evaluating the authority that he has, and I know he'll be making a decision before the deadline this Friday.
One of the things that the president absolutely hated, which didn't make it into the bill, was a proposal by Minnesota Senator Tina Smith to attach a measure that would offer back pay to federal contractors who went without pay during the recent shutdown. But that did not get attached to the bill. Bill?
Thank you, John.
Bill?
Good to see you.
A lot of bills here.
It's all good.